FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We are back, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. And boy, the markets are going nuts. The world is going nuts. And all you need to know is 2 words, and that will get you through gold and silver. Here to talk about it, Turd Ferguson of tfmetalsreport.com. Turd, welcome back.
Hey, Kerry, it's always a pleasure.
Hey, so, man, aside from the breakouts and the absolute numbers that occurred yesterday, you sent me a chart that even if you don't speak chartese, it really tells the story, doesn't it?
It sure does. And I think as the awareness of this chart grows in the weeks ahead, we're going to see silver begin to even accelerate back toward the upside. And what we're talking about is if you were to pull up a chart of the last 4 or 5 years of silver and draw a line on it that starts at the price peak, let's call it the last price peak. That's not, it's going to go back there and go higher. It's just the last time we got up to $49 back in April of 2011. You're to start your line there and draw it through the price peaks of late 2012 and then extend that line to present day. You get a downtrend. Again, obviously that we've been in for now over 3 years. Well, with the action early this week, price finally broke through that downtrend. And I believe that a large part of why we're up 5% in silver yesterday was the initial recognition that that downtrend has been broken. And now with yesterday's action following on today, price trend has clearly been broken. And I think you know it, I know it. Those of us that really pay close attention can see this and can get in early, recognizing that this long, brutal downtrend in silver is now over with. And with more recognition that the bottom is in, price should begin to accelerate through 20, through 22, and make a back move at least toward 26 before the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this. I mean, it was literally straight down from the peak. And, you know, what's interesting about it is normally when you hit a peak, then it goes up and it gets close to it again. Here, it never even got close to the peak again, and that is aberrational price behavior. For whatever reason you want to say, you know, whether manipulation or whatever, you know, not normal price behavior on this chart by any stretch.
Well, and if we're going to go back and look at it from a historical perspective, in that first quarter of 2011, when price was really beginning to rally, was during the period of QE2. Which began in November of 2010 and ran through June of 2011, where the Fed was printing $68 billion a month. And price of silver and all commodities really shot higher. Well, it caught the big, what we call bullion banks, particularly JP Morgan, who is the key manipulator of silver, caught them flat-footed. And as price was rallying, they were getting squeezed tighter and tighter with these short positions that they had. And in fact, go back and look at the historical data. The last 5 weeks of that rally through the month of April 2011, you know, it's perceived as being this bubble as speculators rushing into it. Nothing could be further from the truth. That last rally from the high 30s to almost 50 was all on the backs of the short covering of JP Morgan and the other banks. They were getting squeezed, and it was what we were on the edge of what we call a commercial signal failure. Mm-hmm. What they then did was drive price lower, working with the CME, raise margins 5 times in 9 days. And over the course then of the next year and a half, but continuing all the way through the balance of the last 12 months, they have liquidated and covered their short position on lower prices while at the same time accumulating mass amounts of physical silver. JP Morgan is probably now sitting on anywhere between 50 and 100 million ounces of physical silver in their own proprietary account. Now, as prices rise the remainder of this year and next year and the year after that, JP Morgan has the physical silver to deliver against those shorts. They've extricated themselves from a potentially disastrous, catastrophic short position. And price now will rise the way it should. But the fact that it went down for 3 years was all by design and plan. But now that the price has turned, and it has clearly turned, as you can see on that chart, the bottom is in, and the resumption of this kind of long-term secular bull market is upon us. And I think everybody should be paying attention at this point and adding to their stack of physical silver.
Do you buy silver miners like a First Majestic and like the other good producers, or do you just stick to the physical?
I stick to the physical, but there's a lot of folks that love the miners, and for logical reasons. I mean, it's a great leveraged way to really make a lot of fiat money. And there are very good miners out there, and frankly, if they're still in business after the last 3 years,
and profitable. And profitable with cash in the bank.
Yeah, they've got to be doing something right. And that's all part of the reason why price stopped at $18 last summer, and they've been unable to get anywhere, to get back down there over the last 12 months, because we're at or below the cost of production for these companies. I mean, it's cheaper for a silver miner these days to mine London or mine New York for silver than it is to dig it out of the ground and deal with the EPA and striking miners and all that stuff. There's a reason why price stopped here, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so, there are miners that mining equities that people can buy. The index of miners called the HUI, the HUI, it looks pretty good technically as well. So there's opportunity here to make fiat money I would just suggest that if you make some fiat money trading the miners or anything else, that every month you book your profits and convert it into physical metal and put it in your safe.
Yeah, because there's going to come a time, you and I both know. And look, looking at this chart, it also hit a triple bottom too.
Yes,
very powerful formation
with really successively higher lows. And again, there's all sorts of, I guess we'll call it technical underpinnings to this that make you feel really good. If we look at the gold chart, gold got washed out in June of last year. I mean, we were down like $200 in the month of June last year. And finally, just a complete washout that at the end of June 28th, we were all the way down to 1180. And it was as bad as it could be from a sentiment standpoint and a market dynamic standpoint. Well, then we bounced back. Rallied for 2 months, back up to 1300 and change, and then took about the last 4 months of last year, just a slow water torture type of decline, but a double bottom, a rounded double bottom at that exact same 1180 level. And then after a rally this year, they've tried to jam it back down and could only get it to 1240. So that now you have a higher low. We now put in a higher high. We get a rally up through not only this 1320 level, but extending up through 1400, just like silver. I mean, even the late Ray Charles will be able to look at that chart and see what's going on.
Jose Feliciano could see it too, right?
all those guys. Andrea Bocelli, who was the blind guy, the Jeff Hayes or whatever his name was, that played the flat guitar. Anybody. Helen Keller could see it.
Yeah.
Kerry. So we're in the early stages of this. If you don't want to play this game trying to catch a bot, I don't blame you. If you want to just, if anybody listening to this thinks, I'm going to give this a little more time to play.
Wait till $22. All right.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
But you might see a little pullback. You might see a little pullback at $22 also, as because it'll happen at $22. Turd. They'll come in and they'll rate it at 22 and knock it down to 21 or 20 for a little bit, for a week or two, and then it'll resume its increase. You know that because there'll be pressure to sell for all those people who bought at $22 who say, "Oh, I'm even now, let me sell."
Sure.
It's a technical sell point as well as a resistance point, correct?
That's right. This move now that we've turned the corner, and these bear markets, if you will, these temporary bear markets are behind us, and I'm confident of that. But this move does not mean it's going to be nothing but sunshine and lollipops and upticks every single day.
Yeah, Shirley Temple,
Yeah. I mean, things get temporarily overbought, and you get profit taking, and you get pullbacks. But you use
and that's
those
when they'll
dips.
hit. That's when they hit. Let's face it. They know this better than you or I. They have the pulse of the market because they own the market, and they know this chart, right?
Yes. And silver is exciting and it's fun and it moves on a bigger percentage basis than gold, every day. I mean, yesterday was up 5 some odd percent and gold was a huge day up 3 something. But really gold is the bane of the central bankers. Gold is the one that really has them nervous to the point of almost panic at this point because there's been so much demand out of China and Asia that the vaults of London are essentially empty. We've gotten firsthand reports from credible people that say, where they used to be stacked to the rafters with gold bars, that all that gold's gone. Mm-hmm. And so the big fear of the central banks and by extension their bullion bank partners, JP Morgan, HSBC, other big banks, is that if Western investment demand returns for gold, from where will the gold come? Because it's not there anymore.
When it returns, not if, when.
Exactly, when it returns. And so they've been fighting to keep a downtrend in place in gold as well for the last, more than 12 months. Whether they can keep that downtrend in place is going to be we'll actually get a lot of answers to this just next week, because with the price action this week, that trend line has been broken too, that's been in place for about the last 14 months. They're going to try to beat it back next week. I mean, we're currently, as we speak, 13.15 or something like that. They've got to get it back down below 1,300, maybe even 1,290. They're going to try. Whether or not gold holds this time, holds that old line of support and then extends higher, gets through this week's highs, starts making a move through 1330, that'll be for more aggressive traders and stackers. That'll be your green light signal to really go for it. And let's just see what happens next week. Like you said, the raid to try to shove it back is inevitably coming, especially in gold. And then let's just see what happens there and see if that isn't the dip to really push some chips on the table and go for it.
Hey, and when we return, you raised some great points, and I want to explore them more, but especially the price fixing, the end of the London fix, both for silver, which is imminent on August 14th, and the gold fix, which will end shortly thereafter, when we return on the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Are you worried about the coming dollar collapse? Then Borderless Holdings, formerly known as Owings Metals, is the place to go. Gold and silver are the key to protecting your wealth from a declining dollar. Call them now at 855-604-6343. The Borderless Holdings team will eliminate the anxiety and take the guesswork out of your precious metals buying decision. I recently purchased silver bullion from them at the lowest possible price. Would you believe I got my metals delivered in less than a week? Seth Peretzman, Kevin Drost, and the guys at Borderless Holdings are great people who pride themselves on providing the highest level of service to all their clients and always exceed your expectations. Call them now at 855-604-6343. That's 855-604-6343, or visit them at www.borderlessholdings.com and tell them Kerry sent you.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We're back with our old friend Turd Ferguson on the Financial Survival Network. So, Turd, we got the end of the price fix coming, and Kitco wants to step into the breach and bring the world a new price fix, and it's kind of a joke. But what's your take on the end of the fix? I mean, there's a lot of discussion about it, but a lot of noise about it. A, why did it happen, and why did it happen now? And B, what is the net result of it at this point?
Well, first of all, that it when we say the London price fix, there's a lot of folks that are listening to you and I have no idea what the heck that means.
Right.
What, the price is fixed? What is that? Of course, yeah. No. Going back now for quite literally centuries, in London, now twice a day, the main gold dealers, and London is the main physical metal capital for the world, at least still for the time being. No, that is, emphasis of that is shifting rapidly to the east. But for now, London is still the center of world gold trading, physical gold trading. And twice a day, a group of bankers meet in a room and decide, based on the current kind of global electronic price, that they are going that is the price now that all physical and even derivative deals will be settled at for until the next fix, which might be 6 hours or 18 hours later. It's an archaic system. It doesn't have anything to do with anything anymore. But in terms of, if you're a jeweler in Singapore and you want to acquire metal, people still use that fixed number as the one at which prices are settled and trades are settled. It's also important God knows how many billions, maybe trillions of dollars of derivative contracts as well.
Exactly.
So no one really knows what's going to happen. There's been a lot of pressure. It's like that Michael Lewis stock trading book about HFT and how he calls the market rigged because of that. No, these high frequency traders in equities are just simply skimming and ripping off people. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily rigging the market. The Fed is the one that is rigging the market to make it go higher. Okay. Right. So when people get all excited about manipulation and suppression, which is a historical fact in the gold market, the media now tries to kind of corner everybody into just a discussion around these fixes, as if that's the only time during the day that there's any manipulation or anything like that. So all this attention has been focused on the fixes, I think mainly just so that, to deflect things away from the more grand scheme of overall price suppression, why it's done. But nonetheless, the attention's been paid to the fixes. The silver fix, which happens once a day, is being done away with in August, as you mentioned. This is, we don't know if this is going to be a big deal. It's kind of like Y2K, As you headed into that thing in December 99, everyone's like, oh my God, anything could happen. It came and went, and it was like, oh, okay, no big deal, right? And that may be the case come August with silver. However, I think a lot of this current turn and a lot of the action that I expect upward in price over the next 6 weeks in silver is going to be related to this August 14 date, as people go, you know what? I'm not taking my chances. I'm going to acquire some silver right now ahead of this. Again, kind of like what happened with Y2K. We don't know what the effect will be. Eventually, though, there will be a spillover. They are going to end up, I'm almost certain, getting away with this gold fix as well. And again, it's all part of an ongoing process where the real price action, the real setting of price, the real wholesale delivery market is going to be moving to Shanghai and Singapore and places east out of London, because London doesn't have any gold left in the first place.
Yeah, I guess it's more a tradition and more of, it's like a lot. It's gentility. They always say gentility is what's left after the wealth is gone. You just have gentility, right?
I must be pretty gentle myself then at this point. Nonetheless.
But, it's just one of those things. We've always done it this way, so we'll keep doing it this way until we don't do it this way anymore.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
That's what's happening there. It's just fascinating to watch the whole thing happen. But I've been telling people for the last 3 months at least, actually since the beginning of the year, it's happening now. You better get ready, because you're going to miss it if you don't. And you could just see, right, Turd, at the end of December, the whole thing changed, right? I'm not imagining this, am I?
No, for a number of reasons. And I would say that change is only going to accelerate as we get into the second half of this year. I don't know. I would suspect anybody listening to us right now has this kind of gut intrinsic feeling somewhere deep down that things are really screwy.
Yeah.
And stuff is coming at you crazy stuff. All the way from what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and Obama trading, this one guy that was probably a deserter for 5 high-level guys. And then you got all these little kids that are coming across the border.
Right.
And no one's doing anything. And no one's doing anything to stop it. And you're like, what? And all this stuff is coming at you. And you're like, what in the world is going on? And it is overwhelming.
And lost emails by the IRS.
Yeah.
When Nixon got impeached for 18.5 minutes gap in a tape. Yeah. We still remember this stuff,
Yeah.
And it's insane. The world is totally upside down. There must be some astrological formation. I'll have to talk to Arch Crawford about this that we're unaware of, that has got everyone totally insane and detached from reality. I had Daryl Schoon on the other day, and he said the world is a cosmic outpatient waiting room. Outpatient clinic. That's what he said. It's a cosmic outpatient clinic. And I'm beginning to think that he's right.
You mentioned Arch Crawford. That takes me back, Kerry. 25 years ago when I was a young stockbroker, Arch Crawford used to have a 900. Remember the 900 numbers that you used to call?
Yeah.
And you could call Arch Crawford in the middle of the day, and he'd talk about how it was getting gloomy and how Saturn was moving into Uranus and that kind of stuff. What? But I don't know what's going on. But it promises to be a very, very odd, exciting, if you like, turbulent times. What is it? Churchill said, maybe you'll be blessed. May you be blessed to live in interesting times. Well, I tell you what, boy, it is second half of this year. You can just sense it all wrapping up. There are so many little hotspots. We haven't even talked about China and Vietnam and the South China Sea. Israel is they've had those 3 teenagers that were kidnapped on the West Bank, and so now they're going aggressively after Hamas. I mean, everything. I mean, it is just crazy. And again, like anything else, your protection against craziness is physical gold and silver. It's no different from, if you worry about your house getting hit by lightning or something like that, you own homeowners insurance. You own physical gold and silver as financial protection and insurance. It's not going to be less expensive. All these people are out there trying to get you to either sell it or not buy it for whatever reason. And gold's not going to 900 and silver's not going to 12. You need to be using this weakness to accumulate dollar cost average, add to your stack. It is your protection, and you don't probably have enough of it.
And don't forget about ballistic precious metals, as our friend of the show, Mark S. Mann, get it? Mark S. Mann says you got to have some ballistic precious metals, some food, just as an insurance policy, like just stock up on it. Can't emphasize it enough. My friend, the doc at Silver Doctors, calls it lead bullion. Yeah. You might want to have, they sell it too. Yeah. Hey, I totally am in favor of it. And that doesn't mean you give up on things either. You still got to stay engaged, because it's important that you not become a recluse and disengage from everything, because, the world is still functioning to some extent. Exactly. And Kerry, I tell my kids this all the time. When they go, I've got 2 teenage girls, and when they go out to the movies or whatever, you have to be situationally aware. The military term, situational awareness. Absolutely. You go into that theater and you look around, and just in, the off chance that something weird happens, where the door is, so that when if something were to get sideways, you're not panicked. You're not part of the sheep. Just, exactly. You're out of there. What you've thought it through ahead of time. And that's what we're talking about here, is knowing, things maybe to be just fine through 2014 into 15. God knows, we've all been thinking, these zombie banks are going to collapse for the last 5 years, but they've held them together. But what you've got to be is situationally aware, because this is coming, and you can't, like you said, you can't go to sleep and put your head in the sand. You've just got to be aware of your surroundings, what's going on, so that if it all hits the fan, you're prepared and you're not just one of the sheep. Great point. Situational awareness is the key. And Turd, just give us the web address where we find your newsletter, how we subscribe. TF for Turd Ferguson, tfmetalsreport.com is the website. It's a wonderful community full of people that are all out, like-minded, trying to help each other prepare and stay situationally aware. I also do a little subscription component there with podcasts every day and interviews every week that people get to participate in. It's only $10 a month, so it's not a deal breaker. But I ask everybody to check it out, tfmetalsreport.com. Hey, and we'll have the link on the site on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. Turd, we'll talk with you again real soon. My pleasure, Kerry. Great talking to you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.